Welcome to Pathways to Greatness, where we explore the journeys of exceptional individuals who have achieved remarkable success in their fields. Whether you're an aspiring athlete, a business leader, or simply someone striving to reach your full potential, this podcast is your guide to unlocking the greatness within you. Join us as we dive into inspiring stories, practical strategies, and the mindset shifts that can transform your path to greatness. Let's embark on this journey together. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Pathways to Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Forrester, and today is a gem. It's an absolute gem. I am joined with, anyways, Josh Roberson joins the show today. And man, this is so good. And it's so good because Josh is just one of those wonderful, genuine people that, like most of us, had no idea why in the world I wanted to ask him on the show. And it's because he's Josh. It's because he's somebody who carries himself well, who has a lot to say. And it should just challenge each of you, is because I'm talking to myself as well, is don't sell yourself short. Don't ask why, and do like Josh did and say, okay, I'm not really sure why, but let's do it. Because you will get so much from the conversation with Josh. I got so much from the conversation with Josh because it was exactly what I needed. And he shares a lot of stuff. And like, we get 20 minutes in and we've only gone through 2 questions. And then we're 35 minutes in before I even do the normal recap of what is Pathways to Greatness, because we just had a good conversation. And I've had some of these interviews that have been a little more difficult to have conversations and to figure out, okay, what am I going to ask next? This one was not it. It was one of those where it was 2 buddies having a good conversation, and one asking one and I was asking another. And it was just a great back and forth. And one of the things that I want to leave you with, because I want this to stand out, because this to me really boils Josh down, is attitude sets the pace of the day. If you start the day in a bad mood, I'm going to tell you what, you're going to have a bad day. If you start the day in a good mood, you may have a bad day, but you'll be able to manage through it. You'll be able to battle through it because it's a choice. It's an attitude. You can change it. And like he says, don't talk about it, be about it. If you want a good day, don't say, I wish I had a good day. Have a good day. So Josh, I just want to tell you, thank you. I want to tell you how much I appreciate you. And this was one of those that hit my heart. So thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Josh Roberson. Unleash your potential with Confrontation Consulting. Are you a student athlete striving for greatness? Do you want to enhance your mental performance and elevate your game? At Confrontation, we specialize in mental performance and success coaching tailored for student athletes, parents, and coaches. Our expert coaches provide personalized strategies to boost confidence, improve focus, and achieve your goals both on and off the field. Don't just play the game, conquer it. Visit ConcordConsulting.com and schedule your free consultation today. Take the first step towards success. Josh, thank you for joining the Pathways to Greatness podcast today.
Yes, sir.
Like we were just saying, it's that awkward transition from we were just chatting it up and then here we go. We had to hit record at some point and get after it.
That's right. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Yeah, no, this is good. Everybody, this is Josh Roberson. And is it Roberson or Roberson?
Roberson.
Roberson. Okay, that's what I thought. But then I said it the wrong way.
That's how everybody does it my whole life. It's all right.
Oh, I'm sure they put a T in it sometimes too.
Oh, yeah.
Let me adjust my chair. So I'm excited about today because Josh is one of my loyal listeners, and I don't have a lot of them, but like I had said several episodes ago, is we don't do this for the masses. We do this for ourselves, and we do this for the people that do listen. And so I just want to thank you. It means a lot to know that when I put these things out, that somebody other than my mom listens.
I hear you.
And then you did an episode, if I'm not mistaken, with John Gardina, correct?
Yeah, a few years back, I met John via Instagram, and he asked me to do a podcast. That's back when I was living way out in the sticks, and internet was really spotty. But yeah, John's become a brother. He's a super encouraging individual. His program, 40 Days of Deliverance, it's just, I love John to death, man. Hope to meet him in person one day.
Yeah, he is awesome. And that was one of the reasons why I've been thinking about having you on for a while, because I was convicted. I enjoyed the conversation the two of you had, so I knew I needed to have you on, not just because you're a loyal listener to this show, but also that you're just a great guy to have a lot to share and a lot to offer.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll do my best for you.
There you go. Well, before we get started, that we've got to play a game now. I'm gonna warn you if I've changed the questions up a little bit. So you are guest 102.
All right.
So we have crossed that Mendoza line of 100, and so you're 102. So nobody's heard these yet. They will now because you're 102, and I asked 101 the question. But are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. Would you rather go back 100 years or go forward 100 years?
I'd rather go back 100 years.
Okay. Why so?
I think I would have, I'm better built for that. I have my days where I post a lot on, social media. Then I have my days where I'm completely disconnected, or I don't even want nothing to do with my cell phone. Like, it stays on do not disturb all day. And my wife will call me, or she'll call my children, and she'll be like, "Where's your dad? I've been trying to get hold of him all day," And so definitely go back 100 years. I feel like I'm built for that. I would have been a little bit more successful. Life was a little bit harder, but it was also more simple.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Is there, like, how long do you feel like you would want to stay in that life 100 years ago?
I'd probably stay 5 years.
Okay.
I think you could see a lot of history in that time frame. See how America was built, and I would love the town I live in. It's an older town. I would have loved to seen it 100 years ago when it was just starting out, and people were starting to move here.
Yeah, and you bring up something that's critical is about things that are more simple, and I feel like simple and harder, and it brings perspective, because if life's hard and you're worried about gathering your food, and not that 100 years ago you're having to do a lot of gathering, but you're having to probably grow your own food, or a lot of it, and go get it and do different things that we just can't order like we do now.
Sure.
That you're not worried about a lot of the weird little things that we get bent sideways over.
Yeah, I'd say 100 years ago there wasn't as many triggers, as they say.
No.
Set people off, or
Yeah, and so I think it brings perspective. I love it. I think it's great, and I've always wondered, 100 years, and I like that you said 5 years, because anybody could go back for like a week. It would be hard, it'd be difficult, but you're like, okay, I'm out. But if you're like, okay, I got to do this thing for 5 years, imagine the resiliency that you would build for now.
You definitely got to be committed to it if you're in there 5 years. I think my dream is, before I leave the earth, is just to live in a cabin, a small cabin with a wood stove, and just me and my wife. Once the kids grow up, move on, we're just going to hang out in the woods and be available to them,
Well, yeah, and you think, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because we could do that now, but we allow all these distractions to get in our way. And you could still live in the house that you live in, but it's like back then, those people within walking distance were the most important people that you had to depend on, and you might not like them, but you depended on them.
That's right. You needed them.
For sure. Look at that. Awesome. Okay, so the next one. Would you rather always know the right answer or always make the right decision?
I don't always make the right decision, so I'd have to go with always know the right answer. So I'm a pretty blunt individual at times, and I've been known to stick my foot in my mouth. So if I had a little bit of insight to what the right answer was, or how to, I'm real good at going off the handle and then going back and retracing what I said later, and having to eat a little crow. So if I always had the right answer, it would probably save me a lot of going back with my hat in my hand.
Sure.
asking for
So,
forgiveness.
so with that, do you feel like if you knew the right answer that you would make the right decision?
I'd say sometimes you would. That would also depend on the other person, because sometimes folks don't want to hear what you got to say. They want to hear what's pleasing to their ear. You know, if you got a buddy that's kind of falling off the bandwagon and doing things that you know you shouldn't be doing, you try to correct him in a loving way. Sometimes they don't always want to hear that, so they may cut you out for a while, and they go to their friends that's going to say what's pleasing to their ear. You know, everybody wants to be told they're right.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So on that same line, like when you have that, how do you typically approach giving somebody that corrective action, whether they want to hear it or not? Like what is your approach, and what is the dialogue in your head and say, okay, this, I have to take action on this?
It's usually show up at their house, don't let them know I'm coming, and it's along the lines of, "Hey man, look here. This is what you're doing. This is what you need to be doing. Straighten up for your family, for your kids. You know how you're supposed to act, how you're not supposed to act, and uh, I won't curse them or nothing, but I just kind of surprise them, catch them off guard, so they can't think of what they're going to say in rebuttal to back up their actions. You know."
Oop, I was muted. Yeah, I like that. It's the ambush approach, because I'll be honest, like that terrifies me, is to confront someone that needs to be confronted, that needs to be corrected, which is interesting that I even use the word terrified. That's just the first word that came to my mind.
Yeah.
But it's that I've always been, and I think I get it from my mom, that confrontation is never fun, but I feel like I cross over and bring too much emotion into the confrontation, where it can be positive if I remove what I've already projected of how they're going to react. That's usually my problem, is I've projected and imagined in my head, now if I say this, they're going to go nuts.
Yeah, you play out 1,000 scenarios in your mind before you get there, and I've done that before. But I've also, like I said, I've just sometimes I would, friends would come to me and be like, they would want your advice about certain matters. You give it to them, and then sometimes they take heed to it, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just keep moving on, and unfortunately, sometimes when you've tried to talk to friends and or even family that doing things maybe they shouldn't be doing, sometimes you have to love them at a distance for a while.
Yeah. So, how do you, when you say love them at a distance, that's a lesson that we all can learn. What does that look like?
So for me, it would be, I'm not going to hang out with you as much. I'm not going to take the time to invest in you, because not that I have it all figured out. I by no means have anything figured out, you know, and but I'm gonna distance myself from you, because that saying, you are the five people you hang out with, and if you what if it goes into that where you're like, well, my buddies are going out drinking on the weekends, and I'm gonna start doing that, or my buddies are eating junk all the time, putting a bunch of weight on. Man, that looks like a good time. Let me go do that because it's comfortable. So I like the saying where it says you can't water dead plants. So if you keep pouring into people and pouring into them, and there's no growth, and you have to stop. You have to distance yourself, or otherwise it's gonna start to affect your life, your mental health. I hate to throw it out there, but that seems to be a buzzword nowadays. But it will affect you if you don't. So that's why I say you love them at a distance. Hey, you call me and you really need me, I'm gonna come help you out. But we're not gonna spend our day to day or hours together, because I need you to course correct and start leading your family like you're supposed to.
Yeah, and that's powerful. And sometimes you can do it blunt, like Josh had shared, and then other times you don't have to be so obvious. You just start to make different decisions, and you start changing your trajectory of where you go. And honestly, like Josh had shared, is that if you're if you're the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with, or the average, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but those people that you surround yourself with, if you just change your group, you'll see who starts to fade away into the shadows. And then some of those people may want to join in because you took the courage to step into, let's use, working out. You're like, you know what, I'm going to go start working out and doing different things because, my health is important. And all of a sudden they realize, well, Josh isn't calling me to go eat wings every night. He's not calling me to do this, but he's always working out. And they may ask you if they can come. It's the same thing for church. If all of a sudden, you start going to church and you're not hanging out with your buddies, again, that could be a positive influence on them. And not that you're saying it's, hey, I'm not going to hang out with you anymore. It's, hey, I'm going to church. Do you want to come?
That's right. People are always watching despite what we think, even if we don't want them to. I mean, I've cut back on my working out over the last probably 7 months. I've been dealing with some different injuries and things, but people are always watching whether we want them to or not. And, I've had friends come up where my wife works. She's had people come up and be like, man, your husband, he's getting after it. He's putting good stuff out there. And, sometimes we fall off and you need somebody to pick you up, or you got to self-evaluate and you got to pick yourself up. So, but I agree with that if people are watching you all the time. So if you say, hey, I'm doing this now, and you're not backing that up with your actions, they're going to think you're a fraud.
Yeah. And especially if you have kids in the house.
That's a fact.
They don't miss a thing. Nothing.
That's right.
And whether they bring it up to you now or years from now, you cannot hide from them.
That is correct.
So put that in your pipe and smoke it, as they say. Okay, so look at that. We only got through 2 questions, but great stuff. So while we were talking about health, let's shift to pizza or tacos. Would you rather have pizza or tacos?
Pizza every day of the week. I love pizza.
What kind?
I like them. I like an all meat pizza. I'd like to have me one of them little pouches that go around your neck. You can put a slice in, like an emergency slice. I love pizza. I could eat that morning, noon, and night.
Maybe you should make that.
I bet that. I bet it's out there. I haven't looked it up, but yeah, I ain't not knocking tacos. They can be good too, but I love a good pizza. I like them little hole in the wall mom and pop pizza joints. Those are my favorite.
Are you thick crust, like hand tossed, or thin crust?
I'm a thick crust guy.
Are you? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So more bread, the better.
Yeah, that's probably not good for me, but yes.
Yeah, I grew up eating thin Pizza Hut pizza. So I've always been like a thin and crispy kind of guy that anywhere I go, the thinner I can get it and the crunchier I can get it, the better.
All right.
But I'll eat it all.
I'm with you.
Yep. And it was funny because I was talking to the guest that was before this. He's much younger than I am. And he was talking about how pizza, he's like, yeah, I would have to go tacos now because now that I'm getting older, I don't feel so good after I ate pizza. And I was like, wait till you're my age, then you definitely don't feel good. You don't feel good at eating anything almost anymore. And I love to eat, Josh. And so it takes a lot of the fun out of how I look at food.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. Yeah. Like I said, I love eating, and I eat clean when I got to, but if I can get my hands on a pizza or something like that, I'm all over it.
This doesn't have anything to do with the questions. Are you more of a sweet guy or a savory guy? Like savory and salty or sweet?
I'm sweet.
Are you? What's your favorite dessert?
Just got a new favorite, actually. My wife turned me on to it, key lime pie.
Oh.
Never had that before, and she made me try it, and I was like, well, now I got to have this. So
yeah.
I got one in the refrigerator right now.
Oh, there you go. So funny story. And I may have told this on the show. I can't remember. So my mom always made those Jell-O pies, the icebox Jell-O pies. So the lemon meringue, key lime, all of that stuff. Well, the key lime is like fluorescent green because it's Jell-O. Yeah. And or Jell-O mixture of some sort. So when I was a senior in high school, I went to a nice restaurant for I can't remember what it was for. It was something for school. And so I ordered key lime pie. So they bring me out traditional key lime pie that just looks like almost like cheesecake like. I think I put it down and I was like, I ordered key lime pie. He's like, that's key lime pie. I was like, no, it's not. And he's like, that's key lime pie. And I go, no, it's not. My mom makes me key lime pie, and that looks nothing like what she makes. And he's like, well, then I don't think your mom's making key lime pie right. And then I tasted it and loved it. I went home and was like, Mom, what in the world have you been making us? Because their key lime pie and your key lime pie are two totally different things.
You felt betrayed?
I did a little bit, but I still like that. Like, I love the Jell-O cheesecake with the canned cherry pie filling topping. Oh, it's the best.
Yeah, it is. It's good stuff. You're making me hungry, Jeff.
I know. And I'm not really a sweets guy, but there's certain things like a good cakey brownie I like. I like bear claws and cinnamon rolls and apple fritters.
You like all the sugar stuff, huh?
Yeah, I guess, but I could do without them. But if you put like a bag of potato chips in front of me or chips and salsa, forget it. I'll eat myself sick.
Yeah, chips and salsa. I love salsa.
Yeah, there's all these reels that go around. Is like when you realize that a whole tortilla is only 4 chips, and you realize you've just eaten about 32 tortillas. Okay, so if you came with a warning label, what would it say?
Until you get to know me, it's going to stay back.
Oh, okay.
I've been told in the past I'm not very approachable, and it's just maybe it's the way, here I am smiling, maybe a little nervous, but I'm typically just straight laced guy, and it takes people a little while, to crack my outer shell. But once you get to know me, I'm hard to get rid of, and
yeah,
I don't shut up. I'll just talk your ear off, But yeah, I'd say until somebody gets to know me, it's definitely stay back, because like this right here, I'm out of my comfort zone right now. I'm a pretty private individual. I share some things on social media, some things I don't, and I got about it's about a 1 year button before I'll start to open up to people and where I feel like I can trust them. And that's I don't know if that's necessarily a character flaw. It's just different experiences throughout my life at 43 that's how I protect myself until I get to know somebody and I can trust them,
Yeah, and you bring up a great topic because I'm introverted as well. And you'd think, well, how in the world's a guy that has a podcast that puts almost everything, not everything on Instagram, but I put a lot up there. My kids roll their eyes like, you might put too much, Dad. But I'm introverted as well. Like for me, if I go to a party, I would be perfectly okay to stand in the corner and never talk to anybody.
Yeah.
And
yep.
And then like when I walk the dog, if there's somebody in front of the house walking by, I'm like, well, I guess you're going to have to wait until they walk past, because I'm not going outside, because I really don't want to have a conversation right now. And I
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'll see people I know, like I've known for years out in the store, and depending on the mood I'm in, if I see them before me, I duck them.
Yeah.
It's just, and then when I meet people, like people I followed on social media, I was fortunate enough back in February, I did a 307 Project Trail Race, and I met Cornbread and Justin Shealy and Chad and Blake and all them. And it was as excited as I was to meet those men because they've inspired me. I was probably a little shark-eyed when I was talking to them because I couldn't look them in the eyes. I was just looking all over the place. They probably thought, I don't know, something was going on, but that's like, I don't know. It's just a safety mechanism for me, I guess. I won't look somebody in the eye, and I don't know if that's a character flaw or not.
Interesting. So that's something that I'll challenge the audience to be self-aware. So I applaud you for being that self-aware that you realize that. So many people don't realize they do things like that, and I'll find myself doing that as well. What's interesting is somebody that I may have met, I'm similar to you, that I may not talk to, but if it's a complete stranger, I'll strike up a conversation usually with no problem, if it's something over weird. And so we were on a trip and my son's like, you're such a dad right now. Because some guy was walking by with pink lemonade. I was like, man, that pink lemonade looks good. Where'd you get that? And he's like, oh, you're such a dad right now.
I mean, my wife says what drew her to me, all those years ago is I was so outgoing, and I am outgoing with the right people. But as I've gotten older, I enjoy being at home and just being with her and my kids. And I'm comfortable in my home. And I understand what you're like. I'll see people out of the ordinary, and just nobody I even know. And I'll be like, they'll have something. I'm like, man, that's a nice looking hat. I love hats. Or I'll be like, I like that sweatshirt. Where'd you get that? I don't know them. But now if it's somebody I met through social media or something, I might be like, I can't go talk to them. It'd be weird. I look like you look like an imposter. When I'm a bigger guy, I've always been a bigger guy. When I show up to do like runs and stuff, I always feel out of place because I see all these people that are like half my size, and here I am towing the line, looking like a Clydesdale. And but I still get out there because I want to push myself and see what I can do.
Yeah, and this is a great conversation. I haven't had one like this with anybody, and so I appreciate it because it's allowing me to kind of get some of my stuff out there too. Is don't judge people. Also, like Josh and I have shared, that look at somebody and say, okay, if they're not talking, are they just an introvert or are they just a jerk? Because there are jerks out there.
Oh yeah,
that are in the disguise as an introvert. But there's also a lot of introverts that, like we've just talked about, that if you got to know them and you got comfortable, they're going to be the best people. And usually they're the most loyal. It's like the loud ones are the ones you have to be leery of, I think.
Oh yeah.
And it's the ones that, like, I don't do well with idle chit chat anymore. Like, I need conversation that has depth.
Yeah. I want to learn something when I'm talking to you. I just can't talk about, what the weather's going to do or what are you doing this weekend? Now, give me something that's going to make my brain work, because as I get older, I get forgetful just like anybody else would. And I want to know what you're doing in your life. What good things are you doing? Like how's your family doing? What's your kids doing? That's the kind of stuff. I don't want to hear all the bad. Everybody has bad days, weeks, months, years. That may be inconsiderate of me, but I don't want to hear that. Tell me what good's happening in your life so we can focus on that and let that outshine the bad. That way you can start being better and feeling better about yourself. I read a quote a few weeks back. It said, the words you speak build the house you live in. And I've been saving that and reading that every day, because it's a fact. You can talk yourself into a good mood just as easy as you can talk yourself into a bad mood. And other people can affect your mood as well. So if you got somebody, and that's why I keep myself at a distance till I get to know you. If you're a good friend of mine and you got stuff going on, you call me. I will meet up. We can talk on the phone. But if it's just negative all the time, that's when we go back to what we talked about earlier, where I have to start distancing myself, because I make your problems my problems because I care so much about you. And then that affects my home life. And I don't want to do that. I want to be the best version of myself that I can be and lead my family from the front.
For sure. And I really want people to pay attention to what you just shared, is that if you're asking people for the good, you're conditioning them as, when I get around Josh, I can't wait to tell him the good things because I know he's always going to ask. Where we condition people to always give us the negative, especially if we play into it and we're like, oh, it's okay, I understand. But if you can change the subject to something positive, now you're changing their life. And I feel like in our society, we condition people because of the news and because of all these other things that they see, is to lead with the bad. And I had a friend that I used to always, his thing was, I'm surviving. Like, how you doing? I'm surviving. Like, well, that's kind of, and at first we all thought it was funny and that was just like his thing, but it's actually not a good thing to constantly remind yourself that you're just surviving. Just say, I'm thriving, like something positive.
That's right.
Build a better house.
That's right. Just like when people say, well, it's Monday. Well, yeah, it is. What's that got to do with anything? It ain't no different than Friday. It's just you woke up and decided that you was going to have a bad day because of was Monday. You can take a bad few minutes and turn it into 24 hours if you're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
And even, like, I love music, and I'm getting off a little bit here, but even the music you listen to sometimes, like, it can bring back wonderful memories, or you can listen to some stuff and it just puts you down in the dumps, and then everybody around you is affected with that. Like, I've been told before, when I'm having a bad day and I've walked in my house and my wife's like, the whole mood in the house drops and everybody runs from you. She's like, because of what you're putting out, even if you're not saying nothing, it's body language. And some people, they just want to spend their whole life. Everybody's got a sad story, but you ain't got to be the victim your whole life. Be the hero in your own life. And you can build other people up. And in return, that's going to build you up, make you feel good about yourself.
No doubt. And it's changing your perspective. And this is such a great conversation, because this is the third conversation that has brought me back to my son and I watched a Bible story on Sunday, and it was the story of Paul and Silas and how they were thrown in the basement of a dungeon. I mean, I can only imagine what the basement of a New Testament dungeon would look like. It can't be pretty, but they brought their own joy to the point where it saved other prisoners. It eventually led to the saving of the guard. Like, he was ready to kill himself because he thought everybody had escaped, but no prisoners ran out. And then the prisoners, they could have left, but they were so enamored by Paul and Silas's pure joy and that's a decision in a terrible situation, that they're like, we're not going anywhere. We want to be with these guys because there's so much joy that they're exuding. And then ultimately it saved the guard and his family. And so, like you said, it's a choice. You don't have to be a victim. They could have said, oh, woe is me, and nobody would have judged them any differently because they were in the basement. And they had strength and power, and a great example.
Yeah, they made their situation better with their attitude. When I recently left a job I'd been at for 12 years. The last 3 years of that, I was a supervisor there. And, sometimes guys would come in and they were, whatever was going on. Life happens to everybody. But I would always say, attitude sets the pace for the day. If you come in here, you check your personal stuff at the door, and you have a good attitude, you're going to have a good day here. And some people would, be like, yeah, you're right. And some people, they would just go ahead about and have their bad day. And, I've been gone from there 7 months now, and I still got guys that were on my team that will call me and be like, just remind me of stuff that I'd said to them or how I did things, because I was a servant leader. If I had stuff I needed to do, I'd stay late and do it. I'd go in on a Saturday and do it. I had a team of 13 people. And it was when I took that position, I was like, I'm here to serve these people. I want them to enjoy to come to work. You got to work. You got to make money, provide for your family. Well, if you can go there and have a good time, why not? And we always had a ball. I mean, some days it was a little stressful, but we still got the job done. We had a good time. And I told my wife, I said, the way I know that I led them well, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, was that I've been gone 7 months and they're still talking about how I ran my department and how things were better, and they enjoyed coming to work more. So there again, I'm not toot, but it's just, you just set the pace for the day with your attitude. You can choose to have a good or bad day, just like you can choose to be happy or sad. It's just, like you said, people are preconditioned now. You grab your phone the first thing. It's your algorithm. If you're on the sad side of TikTok, or the news is always bad, I don't really watch TV. I watch a little bit of YouTube when I need to learn how to do something. And it's like, Instagram's good. There's a lot of good people on there if you follow the right ones. But if you follow somebody that's always like, well, you got to have this to be happy. Everybody's always looking for the next best thing. And what me and my wife tried to do in recent years is we've tried to simplify our life, because I feel like a simple life is a happy life. You don't need the next best thing that's coming out. You don't need whatever that may be. Every other week there's a new cell phone that comes out and everybody thinks they got to have it. Well, you don't. That one still works, and you'll be a lot happier having that cell phone that you've had 3 or 4 years instead of going out and dropping $2,000 on a new one.
For sure. And that goes back to what you said earlier about going back 100 years. If you just go back when you and I were young, I'm older than you, but not by a whole lot. I'm 51. But we remember a time where there were no cell phones. We were happy. I remember a time where there was 3 channels to watch, and it was a black and white TV, but it was that we watched it. We watched TV, we had fun, and I'm watching MASH when I'm younger because there was nothing else to watch. Yeah. And we liked it. And it's a matter of, like you said, simplification is that now we have YouTube, now we have 1,000 channels on TV, and what do we all say? Ugh, there's nothing to watch because there's too many choices.
That's a fact. There is too many choices on the well, just in life in general. I mean, you pick up your cell phone, there's so many. Well, follow this person, follow that person. Oh, well, you want this to feel better? Well, you got to buy this and take this. It's like simplify your life. Start out small. Go for the low hanging fruit, as I've heard people say. Like I got a buddy. He's wanting to start working out, and he's like, "Well, I can't run on a treadmill. I can't do this. I can't do that." I said, "You go outside your house, walk to your mailbox. If you walk down the road 2 mailboxes, turn around, come back." I said, if that's all you're doing for a month, you're building that habit. If you show up at the gym and you only spend 20 minutes in there, you're developing the habit of, hey, I'm getting up out of bed when it's cold, hot, rainy, snow, and I'm making myself go to the gym because it makes me feel better. And for me, when I don't go to the gym and I'm not pushing myself a little bit, I get in a bad headspace. I don't go to the gym for vanity. It's for sanity. It just makes me feel better about me. I come back home if I don't have to go to work, and I'm just like, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to take over the world is what I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's proven, you talked about mental health before, is that physical activity helps your mental health. I mean, it just gets all the blood flowing, all the right things moving the way they should be. And I'll give you another like you said, it was not for vanity, but for what'd you say?
Sanity.
And then I'll say it's longevity. Like I look at it now at 51 as I'm working out in a different way because I love being strong. I love having that ego side of saying how much I lift, but the older I get, I can't lift what I used to. But now I just want to be flexible. I want to be mobile. I want to be able to be 70 and not bent over and not being able to do a lot of the activity that I want to do. And so I look at it as longevity as well, is that I use it for sanity and that. And so, and it just changed. It's perspective. I think as you get older, like you said, as you start, our priorities change where I just want my friends, my close friends and family around me. I don't care if I see anybody else.
Yeah, I'm with you. And sometimes that ain't, my wife said a character flaw of mine is I could go for 2 weeks and not speak to anybody. And she's not wrong. I am comfortable being by myself. And a lot of people are not. It gives you time to think. It just gives you time just to be quiet. I mean, some days I get up and I'm up 2 or 3 hours before my family wakes up. And that's my time. And some people can't do that. They got to, or I go to the gym and I may listen to a podcast. It's not always quiet time, but it's my time where I'm not being selfish. I'm not neglecting anything or anybody because they're all tucked away in bed. But a lot of people they're scared to face themselves. So they don't want to be alone. They don't want that. But the older I get, I want quality relationships, and I don't want the quantity. When we're young, everybody's your friend. You're going out, watching football and eating and doing whatever with your bros, and that's all good and fine for a time. But then, like you said, as you get older, you just want that. You want that quality. My kids are growing up so fast. We've already had two grow up, and they're leading good lives and doing their thing, cutting their own trail. And I just want to focus on my wife and kids. And at times when my kids, they got a lot going on, so I'm always running and I'm getting pushed out of my comfort zone. But when I start to get angry about it, I start to fuss, I check myself. I say, one day, my three young kids, they're going to be out living their own life, and I'm going to wish I was able to run them around to stuff. I'm going to want that connection again. So some days I'm successful and not getting irritated about being all over the road. Some days I'm not. It's human nature, you know?
Yeah. And it's such a great reminder for me, because I've hit that, I would say this week I've hit that moment that you were at, where you sit there and you get tired of picking stuff up off the stairs. You get tired of doing this, tired of doing that. But I guarantee you, in 5 years, I'm going to be begging for stuff to be everywhere, because it'll be quiet. I love my time with just my wife and I, but there's an element that I'm so used to all of them being around me in the chaos that it's something that's going to be hard to process, and I'm not ready for it.
I agree. And the time with your wife's important. Because when the kids are gone, that's all, it's just going to be you and your wife. And if you can't stand to look at each other, it might be a problem, you know? But that's good to have that quality time with you and your wife. And we have that time together. But like I said, I've kind of scaled back on how available I'm being to other people. And, I'm trying to focus on my wife and kids a little bit more.
For sure. Well, I haven't gotten to the definition of greatness yet.
Oh, man. All right.
No, this is great. This is why I wanted to have the conversation, and it's just us having a conversation. I had no questions other than the would you rathers written down. But for those who may be new to the show, and I know Josh isn't, so he knows this is part of it, is that, I started Pathways to Greatness back in 2023 to bring people on like yourself to share their definition of greatness, to remind people everybody has a different definition. And so it's an individualized approach, and the pathway is different. And Josh has already delivered a clinic on all these different things that you need to take into account while you're on your pathway to greatness. And Josh, again, the things that you're sharing just gives people the motivation and the inspiration and the tools to not quit. And that was my goal, is to have something to help people not quit. And as I've confessed to you today, it's helped me not quit, just the things that you've shared. So with all that being said, what would you say your definition of greatness is?
My definition of greatness, and I'm going to reference my mother here if that's okay, is
Please.
somebody that they just push through adversity and they keep going no matter the circumstances. I did not grow up with a father in the home. My mother raised three teenagers by herself, which is probably a nightmare. And I know for a fact we gave her a hard time. And she worked two jobs. She supported us with the help of my grandmother and my aunt. And, a lot of people look at me and my mom made sure the church I grew up in that there were strong men in my life, but I wasn't around them all the time. I was around my mother, my grandmother, and she pushed through a lot of stuff, a lot of ups and downs. And I can't imagine the battles that she faced by herself while she was sitting in her bedroom at night. And we're trying to figure life out too as kids. And now that I'm older, I try to put myself in her shoes. And, I've had people say, well, I try to go out of my way for my wife. I don't put her on a pedestal but I treat her the way she needs to be treated, the way I feel she needs to be treated. And sometimes I fail at that. Sometimes I don't. But I've had folks ask me in the past, they're like, why do you treat your wife the way you do? And I've always said, well, I think that's how my mother would have wanted to be treated if there was a male figure in her life and in our life. She would have enjoyed that protection and the nurturing and the providing, and just somebody there that you can lean on and talk to. So that, to me, that's my mother's the definition of greatness, because I don't know what her internal struggles were when we were growing up. We wasn't well off by no means, but she always made sure we had what we needed and a little bit of what we wanted. And I had a great childhood. You couldn't tell me any different.
Yeah, what a great tribute to her. And as you know, because you've listened to the show, that I adore my mother as well. And to know the strength that they bring to the stability of a family. So whether there's a husband, father there or not, women are the anchors that everything then kind of is lashed to. And as men, we, like you said, we owe it to them to support them, to encourage them, to love them, like you said, nurture them, because they need it. And it's a commandment in the Bible. It is not, it's, we're together. We're yoked together, and we're supposed to love them like Christ loved the church, and love them so much that we would give our lives for them. And like you said, is if you don't like your wife, you're going to encounter some issues later when it's just the two of you. And, and I like my wife. I love my wife as well. And, it's one of those things that when you shared the perspective of how would my mom want to be treated, I think that should help us all understand a good way when we have strong women in our lives of how to treat them.
That's right. And moms are fun. When my wife's off work, the kids are up early and they're through the roof because they know she's got something exciting planned. When dad's off work, they sleep in. We homeschool our children, so we kind of let them. We do most of our teaching in the evenings, but they'll sleep in because they know when they get up, dad's putting them to work. We're going to be outside messing with chickens or shoveling dirt or building something, and mom's taking them to Hobby Lobby to do crafts. She's the fun parent. I'm the one that's like, hey man, you can't cook food in the microwave forever. Let's figure it out.
Exactly. And they're both valuable resources. You teaching them those skills, and your wife teaching them the other things. It's like with us, we laugh because when we go on a vacation, my wife's got every minute of the vacation booked with some kind of tour, something somewhere. And so we all laugh because it's like, can we just relax a little bit? But then when we're done and we look back, we're happy we got to see everything that we saw. But it's like, it's not really vacation. It's like we are on it
You're on the road. Yeah, we're fixing
sun up to sundown.
fixing to leave, going on a little trip, and my wife's got a notebook paper sheet full, of stuff we're doing. She's like, "What?" She goes, "We got all this stuff we're doing. What do you want to do?" I was like, I was really looking forward to just sitting in the cabin and watching the fireplace. But yeah, all that stuff's cool. Let's go.
I know. It's like, well, do I have a say in what we do?
No.
Or am I just going to have to bring a smile on my face when we go wherever we go? And it's fine. It's that balance, because we have to enjoy those moments, because that's where the memories are. Because again, can I just sit here and stare at the fire? Nobody else but you and I would enjoy doing that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good time to the kids. They're like, no. I get volunteered a lot. Hey, we're doing this. It's on the calendar. I'm like, well, y'all have fun. She's like, no, you'll be there. Like, oh, okay. Well, let me jot that down.
Exactly. Let me highlight that in my calendar so I remember that I got to do that.
That's right. Can't wait.
Yeah, exactly. But when the things that you shared were so important and relevant, because it's how we treat other people. And just like you put your mom in as an example of how would I like to treat my wife, it goes back to the Bible and saying, be the good neighbor, is be the neighbor you wish you had, and don't wait for that neighbor to show up. Now, Josh and I aren't going to come over and knock on your door and chit chat with you, but like he said, is that we can be a stable force where any of our neighbors would know that if they needed anything ever, to come see me, kind of thing. And so that's where you have to think of others, and like you said, be a servant leader. So when you're thinking of, we were talking about kids and parents and sharing these valuable lessons, how are you teaching your kids some of these valuable lessons that you might not have been taught since you didn't have a father figure in the home? How are you relaying that since you're kind of going off of scratch?
Well, sometimes, I remind the kids when I'm having an off day. I'm like, I'm living life for the first time too, and I don't have it all figured out. So I try to do it through my actions. I try to, you don't want to make doing chores miserable, but it is life lessons that they need to learn. It was taught to me. A lot of stuff that I kind of picked up and wanted, manly stuff, if you will, is because I wanted to do it. Like I didn't have nobody out there showing me, holding my hand. It was like, hey, you're married now. You got kids. This thing on the car is broke or whatever. You got to go fix it. But I bring the kids out with me, and I'm like, look, I didn't know how to do this 2 days ago. This is where I did. I invested the time and learned. So I try to encourage them through. We're like a wide open book. The kids have to be doing something, and we'll get behind them 100% as long as they're putting the effort in. So I guess to sum it up, I just try to show them through action. If I say I'm going to do something, I try to keep my word 95% of the time, because I'm human and I fail just like anybody else. And it's like, hey, if you signed up for something, you say you're going to do it, well, then go do it. If it doesn't go the way you think it ought to go, then what can you do to make it better next time? How can you be successful? So just through actions, that way it goes back to me being like, do as I say, not as I do. I don't like that. If I say, hey, we're going to try new food, well, I'm going to try it with you. And if it's gross, it's going to be gross to all of us.
Well, and it's fun. It creates a fun story. Like we all tried that and it was awful. We're never trying that again. It's like you remember the really good dishes, but sometimes you forget them, but you'll never forget those challenging times. Because I was talking to my mom, and I know the story and I'll never forget it. And I wasn't even alive. They talked about my mom when she first married my dad. She made a tuna casserole, and she's like, my dad, he's like, he ate it. And he looked at me and said, don't ever make this again. And so they had hogs. And so anything that she made that they didn't like, she took to the hogs. So she's like, we took that to the hogs, and I never have made tuna casserole ever again. And tuna casserole doesn't even sound pleasant to me anyways. I like tuna fish, but a casserole of it, I don't think I could do.
No, it doesn't sound good at all. Hey, he told her in love, he didn't get up and throw it in the trash and shake the finger at her,
Yeah. And I think that's a valuable lesson as well, is that you can give people, like Josh said earlier, constructive feedback. Like he saw that she wanted to make, as his new wife, him dinner after he came home from work. And so he accepted that and then politely, I guess, gave her the feedback. Please don't ever make this again. And so sometimes we have to eat tuna casserole that we don't like because somebody else did it out of love. And then you're allowed to, at that point, say, thank you, but I think I don't want that ever again.
Yeah, that's the best I ever had, but don't make it anymore, please.
That's right. I don't think you could ever top this one, so let's just stop now.
You've made it. Let's not do this anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So before I want to be very sensitive of your time, but I want to ask you a question, because you had posted about it a while back and we briefly spoke about it, is that you tore your bicep a while back, which had this brand new job, which I didn't realize that you were in a new job. So you come to a new job and you tear your bicep and now you can't work. So what's been a lesson that you've learned that someone else might be able to apply to their life in this very trying, difficult time for yourself?
Well, what I've learned is that I'm not as young as I used to be. I can't lift the things that I used to be able to lift. And it was I had spent switching jobs. So, I went through like a grieving process because I left all my buddies and I had to go meet all these new people, a lot of new people. And I'm not good at meeting new people. I mean, eventually I am. But so I was grieving that. I was feeling sorry for myself a lot and just being down in the dumps. I wasn't working out. And, I was putting weight back on, and, my wife was like, well, you've been sick or you've been injured. It's okay. I got a good woman, Jeff. And so what I've learned is that even though I changed jobs, change is good. I can't do what I used to do when I was in my 20s. And I just need to accept that, slow down a little bit, do what works for me. Plus I got injured on the 28th of October. and I've got to spend all this time with my wife and kids. When she's not at work, I'm never going to get this time back. So there's purpose in everything. There's good in everything. When I got hurt, I was like, I got hurt on a Monday. I said, I'm having surgery on this Friday. And I hadn't even been to the doctor. And they was like, well, how you know that? I was like, I'm having surgery Friday, 11/1, because I got to get this thing recovered so I can get back to work. It was a process when I got hurt. My kids seen me cry for the first time. I told them, I said, dads are supposed to be at work taking care of their families. We're not supposed to be home getting hurt. I said, I made a silly mistake. And something I'd done 100 times since I've been at that job, and the weight shifted, and it just caused that tendon to snap, and it wasn't a good time. So, but that goes back to like positive reinforcement. Well, I ended up having surgery on that Friday, and I just kept saying, there's power in your words. I kept saying these. Some people don't like mantras and all that, and I would. You've heard people say, suffer in silence. And I'm not saying you can't express your hurt, but I didn't. I had my surgery, and my wife was like, are you anxious? Are you nervous about this? I was like, there's no point. It's got to be done. It has to be repaired. So me being anxious and worrying about it, it's not going to change nothing. And it was the day of my surgery, I was starting to get a little anxious. And I actually wrote this. I got on my Bible app, and the first thing that popped up was a scripture. It was Isaiah 41:10. It says, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed. I am your God. I will strengthen you and helping you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. And I was like, everything's going to be all right. What I got to worry about? It's right there in front of me. And I went in there. They did what they had to do. And last thing I remember was getting my arms strapped down. They went to work, and I woke up, and my wife said she could hear me in the recovery room saying, where's my woman at? You gonna call my woman or what? And I'm ready to go. I just woke up, man. They couldn't let me go yet, But I wanted my wife around, man. That's my lady. I hope nobody gets offended. That's my wife, but she's my woman.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it's a beautiful story, in not that you got hurt, but that you see the good in a bad situation. You could be, like you said earlier, you could be the victim. Oh, woe is me. I can't believe this happened to me. What's going to happen? And then you're saying, wow, I get to spend all this uninterrupted time with my wife and kids that I'll never get. And then I'll be able to be stronger and better and have a different perspective when you go back to work.
That's right. And that goes back to, and I'm sorry if I'm rambling, that goes back to having, the people you have, in strong people in your life, because this goes back to me referencing John Gardena, because he was the third person I called when I got hurt, because I called my wife, I called my mother, and I messaged John, because I knew John was going to come back with positivity. He was like, you're going to be stronger than you was before this. He rattled off, and I was like, my man. That's why I've known him for 3 or 4 years now, and he was the third person I contacted, because I knew he was going to hit me with positivity. And some people, I think sometimes they want you to, they want to know what the downside is. Well, how's your arm today? It's fine. It's still attached. If it wasn't fine, I wouldn't tell you, because I'm not going to speak that. It just, words have power. And if you want things to change in your life and you want to be better, then you start telling yourself that. And then the Bible talks about us producing fruit. If you say you've changed and you're not producing good fruit, people are going to notice that. So it also has a positive effect where, no, I am producing good fruit. My life is getting better because I'm doing the small things that I said I was going to do daily. And I have a positive mindset. And you hate to reference mindset all the time, but so many people do. And it's just, take a pill for this, take a pill for that. Or, well, if you breathe a certain way, that's going to lift your mood. You're like, maybe it does. I don't know. I'll just go sit in a sauna and sweat, and it makes me feel good. So,
yeah. And that's all amazing information. And it's a great final word. I was going to ask you if you had anything, but you're welcome to add to that. That was Magic. That was
Well,
good stuff.
I don't know if it's magic. I just I got a little saying I live by where it says, "Don't talk about it, be about it." And don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do, and I'm going to do the same. And I appreciate this opportunity to share with you today, Jeff.
Yeah, man, and it was everything that I had hoped for and more. And we could probably sit here for another hour and chit chat. Here's two introverts just going at it for an hour without a hesitation. No dull moments for sure. And that's one of the things that he had said is if you follow him on Instagram, which I encourage you to, is that he's a Kentuckian husband, a father, but then he talks about chasing the simple things in life. And like he said just a second ago, don't talk about it, be about it. And that's just being intentional. Take action in your life. If you want something different, do something different. It's not going to just, life's not a lottery ticket that you just scratch off and hope something happens. You actually have to make it happen.
That's right.
Well, how can people find and follow you, Josh, if you want them to?
Well, you can find me on j._Roberson on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook. Some days I'm there a lot, and some weeks I'm not. But if y'all want to follow me, come on, and maybe I'll post something that lifts your spirits, or you'll post something that lifts mine, and we can meet like me and Jeff have today. So
and like him and John. I mean, and like I've always shared is that Instagram, and you shared earlier, can be a tool for good or a tool for bad. And I feel like over the last 6 years, I've used it for good because I have met some amazing people, some that I've never met in person, but some I've had the privilege of, meeting them, shaking their hand and hugging their neck. And these people it's life-changing relationships. And so if you use it for good and you meet people like Josh and John that we talk about, is your life can be better, but you got to surround yourself with the right people.
You got to search them out. They're there. You just got to find them because sometimes they're a little buried by all the other things that are surrounding us. But there's good people out there in the world. You gotta find them, dig for them.
Yep, for sure. And like he said earlier, is that a lot of them are watching you, and you'll never know that they're watching because they never hit the like button. They never make a comment, but they're watching. So just be mindful.
That's right.
Well, Josh, thank you very much for today. I appreciate it. Hang on a second after I hit stop. But ladies and gentlemen, Josh Roberson. Thanks for joining us on the Pathways to Greatness podcast. We hope that today's conversation inspired you to take steps towards your own greatness. Remember, every journey starts with a single step. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. Actually, share it with 3 people that you might think it might benefit. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and carving your own path to greatness. Take care.